Our 10th commandment of classroom management, you must seek to understand the root cause of misbehavior and address it at a heart level when possible. So a lot of our 10 commandments have been dealing with how we set up our classroom management as a whole, right? Because the reality is you have 20, 25, 30, whatever it is, students in your classroom at any given moment. And so you have to create this structure so that you can keep order in this large group. And that's why it's so important to have clear boundaries and know what you're going to say when students cross over them. All of that is so, so, so important. But while that track is happening, there's another kind of track going on underneath, or at least that should be going on underneath. And that is that you should be seeking to understand what is going on with your students and what is the deeper issue underneath some of the misbehavior that you're seeing. And particularly, you might be looking for areas where a student is really struggling, where you're having a chronic issue, right? Where you're dealing consistently isn't solving it. It's still happening. Or you might be looking at some bigger issues that happen. Or a student that is having an uncharacteristic issue that doesn't seem normal for them. In these situations, particularly with those chronic things that aren't helping, where the consistency isn't really solving it, you want to really try to get under the surface and try to understand what is happening. Why is this happening? And you're looking once again underneath the layers. What is the root cause underneath this? And is there any way to address the root cause, not just the external behavior that's happening? And so you're seeking to do this perhaps with conversations with the students, perhaps with conversations with admin or school counselors, perhaps with conversations with parents. You're observing and paying attention. Now, none of this happens quickly. None of this is a quick fix, but it's something you're paying attention to and kind of being a detective over the course of weeks or months or sometimes even the entire year. But we should be keeping our eye out and seeking to understand what are those root issues underneath the continued surface issues. And then when possible, we should address issues on a heart level. And I'm talking about these chronic issues, but I'm also talking about just whenever we get opportunities to do this with our students, because our consequences, and our responses, those are kind of reaching the surface level, and those have their value. But when we can speak to the heart, to what's really going on inside of a student, that has huge potential to impact them for the rest of their lives and maybe even for eternity. So while we have all of our plans, we should also be considering the heart and how can I speak to the heart and how can I make a difference in how they're thinking and feeling on a heart level. This is something that we certainly cannot cover in depth in a 3-minute video, so we would love to have you join us inside Classroom Management 101. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this full series where we've gone through all 10 of these classroom management commandments. In Classroom Management 101, we take these 10 commandments and that is the framework from which we walk through our process. And in the process, we're going to help you create a classroom management plan. We're going to help you clarify expectations, think through your procedures, figure out what kind of positive rewards and consequences make sense for me and my students. We're going to help you plan your responses. What exactly are you going to do? Then we're going to help you implement your plan, especially if it's the middle of the year and things are kind of crazy and where do I even start? We help you walk through that. We walk you through how to have conversations with students and parents, how to adjust your plan when what you thought would work doesn't actually end up working, how to prevent issues from happening in the first place. We also dive into a little bit of what if students are really unmotivated, because that can factor into their classroom management. So we really dive into so many topics, and the teachers, we've gotten so much great feedback from teachers who have taken classroom management saying this really made a huge difference. My class is night and day. My administrator noticed a huge difference. And so I want you to know it is possible. I know the environment right now is just so difficult, so much more difficult than it was even 6-7 years ago. But these principles still work. And I would argue they're more important now than ever. And they will not solve every issue in your classroom, but they will really help you have a framework from which to address the issues. And they'll also help just bring down the level of chaos so that you can have a base level of capacity and calm from which to address those bigger issues that are inevitably going to arise. So the challenges are huge, but we are loving helping teachers tackle them. And so if you're looking for that help, check out the info below, grab the coupon, join us inside Classroom Management 101. We cannot wait to help and support you there. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them on this video or reach out to our team anytime. We'll put our info in the video below. We would be just thrilled to be able to answer any questions for you. Well, thank you so much for joining us in this series, teacher. I pray God's just richest blessing on you and your classroom. Thank you so much for being here.